Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Good Lord Bird. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I thought that intro was really interesting, the whole situation with Frederick, obviously him taking a picture and trying to, obviously look very dignified and everything, but I think it's also the interesting message that he was kind of getting across. Like, for example, I wonder, is that true? I mean, it's not like I've seen every picture of Frederick Douglass, but I wonder, is there some validity to like him not smiling in pictures, being like, because if I'm smiling, it's just like, oh, you're the happy Negro. It's like, no, I'm not going to put up the front of being, because I don't want anyone to misconstrue me as happy. I want them to see me for who I am, so I just thought that was such an interesting thing. But I guess maybe you can make the argument that in itself is very foreshadowing, because it's like he's there striking these poses, saying these very eloquent things, trying to get prim and proper for this picture, but I think that in itself kind of speaks volumes about his actions later on in the episode. And I think even that has its complications, but, we'll get to it. So obviously we have Cook and Onion all, meant to, rally up people, so they can obviously, go after the armory. But Cook is too busy banging that lady Mary. It's like, Onion's like, we're here on a mission. It's like, yeah, I don't care. I'm about to get laid. Turns out also, because even Onion was like, yeah, Owen said, most likely our plans are going to get ruined because Cook can't shut his damn mouth. But then, it's like, oh, but John wasn't too worried, because it's like, oh, this is God's plan, and, this God's with us. And if he, it's going to take more than just, him saying, so it was just an interesting thing that, John didn't think too much of it with the whole Cook situation. But when it was all said and done, though, Onion's kind of left to his own vices and stuff like that. It's like, we're here on a mission, but because you could, it's pretty clear why Cook joined this whole thing. He was looking for money, booze, and glory. He doesn't. It showed you his heart's not in a fight like everybody else's. That was pretty clear, last episode. But now Onion's gonna have to try and rally everything by himself. So I love that whole conversation he had with that dude. I think his name was Jim. He was the coachman. Who's the actor who plays? Was it Deacon? You always see this actor in different stuff. There was something fairly recently I saw him, and I just don't remember. But the thing I kind of know from is Deacon from, I want to say that's his name, from King of the Hills. He's Doug's best friend. Nevertheless, but I love that whole conversation, because basically he's trying to figure out what, it's like, wait, you're dressed like a girl, and it's like, because obviously his wife was able to tell. Once again, it's so interesting how some people, it's clear as day that Henry's, Onion's a boy, but to everyone else it's like, no one else is able to see it. But I thought it was so fascinating when he's trying to understand if Henry's connected to the Underground Railroad or not, but Henry's misinterpreted everything that he's saying. He's almost like, what's wrong with you, boy? Type of attitude and stuff like that. But obviously it's he tells him about John, but Jim is like, I don't believe you're lying. John's dead. It's like, no, John Brown isn't dead. He's alive. He sent me here, and obviously he gets sent off. But when he tries to rally other people, the word had already spread, that so people were avoiding him. But then Jim comes over later on and is like, okay, wait, you said you can read this letter. And so basically it was from the guy he served. He was basically like, okay, so basically anytime Jim went to pick up stuff for this guy, he would basically eat the biscuits or whatever. And it's and talking about the fact is that he's getting fat. And then Jim got so frustrated, he's snatching the letter from Onion's hands, and he's just so frustrated. He's like, it's like the guy basically feeds me shitty food. Of course I'm going to get hungry and eat some of his stuff. What does he expect from me, So, obviously, once again, there's the whole Cook situation, him complicating things by having sex with a married lady. Her sister-in-law shows up, wanting to, speak to him and everything. And, Onion eventually, has to go and meet with the Railman, played by Orlando Jones. I was like, is that Orlando Jones? Looks like it's Orlando Jones. I was like, that's crazy. That being an interesting conversation, because obviously he heard from the general what John's plan is, and it's like, oh, that's crazy as hell, because it's like I pray for him, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like there's only probably there's only kind of one way things that that matter are going to end, but and he talked about an interesting thing where he was not interesting, it's actually a really sad situation, but it's like he talked about the fact that he's got family still in bondage, and he could saved up enough money, but he's only got enough money to free one of his children, and he has to pick. No parent should ever have to be, no one should ever be in a situation where they have to make a decision like that. And I was like, that's rough. So obviously the plan, because obviously for him, it's like none of the people around here, like, because most of the people in this place are women and children, and the men, even those who are men, it's like, even if you were to rally them up, none of them would know anything about handling guns. It's like you'd have to go somewhere else. But the fact of the matter is they have to strike here because this is where the big armory is, and hitting here would make such a big statement, and it would it echo out them hitting and robbing this large, armory and everything. So, but basically, the railman suggesting basically spreading word, because like there's like a gambling thing going on, like, and he was saying like both bondaged and free, slaves end up like doing this whole situation. So it's like if you get kind of word there, and it'll eventually kind of spread out and trickle out everywhere else. So he's trying to make a point of, we need to do this, and that will kind of get you the manpower you need for all of this. So then Onion coming back later on, and obviously John shows up, and he's like, this isn't a place we decided on. Cook was like, yeah, there was no other places to rent out, and Onion's looking at him, he's looking back at Onion, and it's like, you're so full of shit. It's like, because Onion tried to tell you beforehand, but you didn't care. So obviously they're having to sneak a lot of people in, and they have to keep it very low key so no one knows what they're up to. But one of our surprise appearances is Annie, John's daughter. Obviously, like I'm sure her brothers are happy to see her and everything too. Which I kept looking, being like, is that who I think it is? And lo and behold, if you are unaware, the actress who plays Annie is Maya Hawke, because I had to wait to the credits to make sure, and it totally was. I thought it was her, but I wasn't for sure. If you're unaware, that's Ethan Hawke's daughter, so it's kind of dope that his daughter is playing his daughter in the TV show. I just thought that was kind of neat. The thing I kind of best know her from is Stranger Things, her playing Robin. But nevertheless... But I think it was kind of interesting because I think this is like our second time seeing, Onion, or rather Henry, falling in love. Because obviously there was the whole pie situation. But even then, I think this situation is a little different. Because even he's like, Annie isn't like any other woman he's ever met before. Because in his mind, it's like most women he's ever come across have always been trying to like basically steal 2 cents from a dude or whatever. Because I guess even in his mind, it's like, what pie did. So it wasn't like she, but it's like Annie's on a different level. And so he finds himself, immediately infatuated with her. Because she's so happy to meet him. Because she's heard so much about him. Her hugs Onion and everything, and I thought that was, and then later on, her and Martha are taking a bath, and then like Onion's trying not to look, and they're like, no, come take a bath, and it's like, because we gotta wash our private parts and stuff like that, because even it's like, oh yeah, like teach Onion about the feminine hygiene or whatever, because you haven't had your time yet, have you? And then like Henry's just trying not to answer that question. But it's just the awkward thing of like, I can't let her find out the truth about me. But also it was pretty dope the way she handled that nosy neighbor situation. That lady came over and be like, oh, like rumors had come around. She's like, oh, but have you actually caught Mr. Cook with your sister-in-law? And it's like, well, no, but I will get them. It's like, yeah, and kind of start speaking like basically like, rumors are kind of a bad, they could, spread like... She was kind of obviously using the Bible to kind of tell the lady not to, and she was able to shoot a lady off, which was pretty badass that she was able to do that. But at the same time, her and Onion are getting closer. There's a whole conversation about, when you're free, like, what are you going to do? And Onion's like, well, Henry's like, wants to get a fiddle and maybe he'll sing. And she's like, oh, how did you not tell me you could sing? He's like, you never asked. And, they sing a little together. And she even talks about, her plans is to open a school for whites and coloreds, and and it's like, oh, maybe you can teach music there and everything. And I was like, that's dope, and this is this moment they have, and this intimate moment, and it's just like, and then Bob comes out and be like, hey, Onion, I gotta talk to you. And it's like, what are you doing? Not only are you trying to get with Annie, who's the captain's daughter, you're also a guy dressed as a girl. Like, she's not going to be too happy and too close to you when she finds out the truth. And that puts him in this complicated thing, because it's like, obviously for Henry, it's like he likes her, but he is scared. Because even Bob making a wisecrack being like, yeah, you might want to check your lip because your mustache is growing in or something like that. But it's that complicated thing of like, yeah, you can roam this bond with her as you are, but it's like, if you tell her the truth, maybe she will be disgusted by you. Maybe, it completely ruins whatever you have right here, But things get even more, complicated, because Cook has been running his damn mouth all over the place. Because that was a whole thing at the beginning too. Like, yeah, some people were just kind of like, Cook is just telling some tall tales. But it's like, all it takes is the right person to hear that for some shit to be kind of taken at face value. And the fact of the matter is, for one, you're a white guy saying stuff, so it has, sadly, more validity that people are more likely to listen to you. But I think it's also because she's the nosy neighbor. They make it clear, like, oh, she listens to rumors and stuff like that. She's like, I've never caught him necessarily, but rumor says this. And it's like, she's the rumor lady, so it's like, she's the one that kind of buys into rumors, so it just took her hearing it to set everything in motion, so, because obviously now Annie's story starts falling apart about like, oh yeah, my dad's a miner, and then Mr. Cook's a miner, but he also does that. So it's like, she starts poking holes in the story, so it's like, once again, no one else's fault but Cook's, because he was the douchebag that, put everyone in this situation to begin with. And then there's the meeting between Frederick and John. And I thought it was interesting because Onion saying like, oh yeah, like he's basically heard so many different like interpretations of what that meeting was like, but he's like, there was only like a handful of people there that actually know the truth. So he knows like any other story that's being told obviously is BS, because like only a handful of people were there to hear and see what really went down. Obviously, John is showing everything, giving all the details to Frederick, but then Frederick is like, no. And it's almost like, wait, what do you mean no? For him, it's like, I said this should be done, should and could, and it's like him getting like, you didn't make yourself clear in what you were suggesting, because John's kind of prepared everything. He's like, the fact of the matter is, we do this, we have you there, like you are such a well-spoken and revered, loved and revered person. If you're there, it will rally to everyone, like everyone far and wide, every colored person will want to fight, get their freedom. But Frederick says no, because he doesn't want to go about things this way, because for him it's like, this is clear suicide. It's like, doing this isn't good. It's all you're going to do is just make a martyr of yourself. It's kind of like, for him it's like, going into battle, doing something like this, it's just going to end with you dying. Like, what's the point in that? Like, in his mind, I think it's like, you can change more by finding a different way. This isn't the way. So because of that, he won't help John. He won't give him his support and everything. And it's just kind of like, sucks, because obviously John was planning on that. Like, this was a key component to this plan and everything. And the guy that's with him is kind of basically like, oh, like, I guess you're not in it for the fight. He's like, you've got your words and you're this and that. And it's like, oh, like, you've been eating this particular type of food, like higher class food, for so long that maybe you've kind of forgotten, not quite this, but you can almost look at him almost being like, you're almost so above it now that you're afraid to get your own hands dirty because you're afraid to die in this, You can't even, because he's not even admitting, like, just admit that you're scared to die and this terrifies you, so you're going to leave John and them to kind of do this, because it's, and even, Onion trying to, support John by being like, hey, like, I do believe that God, is with us on this. And he was like talking about like, oh yeah, that disappointment, and Onion's like, wait, is that what I'm feeling? He's like, yeah, you take that, that disappointment in you and you reach down, and he's like, that's where you'll find God, And even Onion says it, it's like realizing that Frederick was nothing more than a man with words, but not someone that was willing to kind of, get bloody and, Once again, this is just me taking it from the show. I'm not saying that's the case in history. I'm just saying based on what we saw in the show. I mean, maybe that is pulling from some history. Yes, warped and twisted a little bit, but maybe there's still some validity to that. I mean, it's just a thing of everyone has their, truth be told, is everyone else that he picked up last episode was kind of in that same situation. It's like when you're in this privileged situation, you're kind of scared to give it up. You're scared. I mean, when you've had that taste of freedom, when you've had the taste of this life you had, it's hard to want to, I mean, because you feel like you're probably just throwing your life away for nothing when you think maybe like, oh, there'll be other ways to handle it. But it's like, and obviously Onion's like, we thought that was bad, but, things got even worse. I mean, hell, Frederick turning him down, like, devastated John. We've always seen him so, like, despite the hardships and everything, he kept going, and it just seemed in that moment he was broken. I was like, this is not the man you want to kind of be going through with this plan. But now it's like the sheriff is going to be on his way tomorrow, so we don't have much choice. So we need to kind of do something now. What are we going to do? And it's like, well, John suggests moving up the plan till tomorrow, and it's like, no. What did the general say? Harriet literally said last episode, pick a date, stick to it. Do not compromise it. And he's compromising it because, well, they are compromised. Once again, this is Cook's fault, but, no one's pointing fingers at him when they should be. So, obviously, he sends Onion to go give a message to the railmen to, like, whatever people you can get, send them our way. We're going tomorrow. And Onion does, but it's like, the railman's like, there's not enough time. Like, I thought I had a month. Maybe I can get you some people, but even then, it's not going to be what you want it to be. And it's like, and obviously he's like, oh, you up here talking slick to me, because it's like, it don't matter what you want. And he was getting upset, but it's like, I'm just speaking for the captain. He's like, yeah, that's all you are, aren't you? You're just a messenger, because for him, he just feels like Onion was just kind of like, that's all you are in this. For him, I think it's like, you're not really staking yourself on this like you should be. You're just a messenger. You're not really in the dirt. You're not in this grind of like helping on any side of the situation. I think that's kind of how the railman was kind of looking at him. So it's like, all right, so what we'll do is, he's like, I'll give you, there'll be a password, and then basically we'll stop the train, he'll come check it, and then he'll say say something. It's like, who goes there? And it's like, Jesus is walking or something like that. It's the password, and they'll let him know to let all the slaves off the train. So Onion's to go pass that back to John, but he doesn't have time to talk to John because John is sending Martha, Annie, and him, and Onion away. And Onion's even like, I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye, Because obviously Onion had talked about the fact is because everyone was walking with like determination and stuff like that. They had purpose, And as Onion's walking away, obviously like the storm and everything, I don't know what it was, but something in it clicked in Onion's head. Like, shit, I didn't tell the captain what I need, the password and everything. Sits up and gets ready to run, but beforehand it's like, decides to tell, or rather show Annie the truth. And it's like, I'm a man, the fact of the matter is, and I will never see you again. Kisses her and takes off to get back to the captain. And obviously she's calling out to him because it's like, because she even said all that stuff like, oh man, if you were a man, I would marry you. And it's like, even that whole thing they were enacting in front of everybody, like obviously they're, but yeah. And it probably was the last time. Probably never do get to see each other again. But obviously, because obviously in Onion's head, he's like, if the old man was going to die, I don't want it to be because I failed to do what I was supposed to do. So obviously, like everything was moving too fast, so he never had an opportunity. Like obviously, he got swept away, so he just didn't have it on his mind about what he needed to say. But a lot of interesting things. I'm curious to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. I didn't actually check to see if next week's episode is the finale or not. I should have waited to see. I'll find out after I ended up uploading this or not. I'll probably leave a comment being like, oh yeah, next week's episode is the finale, or no, I'm a complete other idiot. Next week's isn't the finale. Regardless. I'm interested to see where everything ends up going from here. well, we already kind of have an idea because of the beginning of the show, but there's still some space in between to figure out. We still don't know who makes it and who doesn't in between then and there. The only person we saw at the end was Onion, and obviously John being taken to the gallows, like I said, we'll have to see where everything takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.